Hi, my name is Dr. Kelly Johnson. Welcome to the Capet Institute video post number 1. Our focus today will be on Lucien Capet and his pedagogical methods, and in the future, other related research. Why do we focus on Lucien Capet? Because we know he has the most complete pedagogy for artistic development. This is found through comparative research and a lot of historical knowledge. One of these pieces of knowledge is Ivan Galamian. He's one of the connections we have to the past and the present. Ivan Galamian, we know, came to America. He started teaching at the Curtis Institute and then moved up to the Juilliard School of Music and developed a very individualized teaching strategy that became very popular. He also has a treatise that is still being used today. And that treatise, if you compare it to the original Capet treatise, has about a 90% match, which is extremely similar. What we find, though, is that Ivan Galamian's book is a shortened version, like a Reader's Digest version, of the original Capet treatise. We also know that Ivan Galamian came to Lucien Capet at some point and expressed his concern about continuing to perform solo work with his physical challenges. So Capet suggested to him that he develop his abilities to teach. And true to the generous nature of Capet, he gave him an entire studio of students at one of his own students, an entire studio of his own students, about 20 some odd students. He gave them to Ivan Galamian to start teaching, and he helped him to learn how to teach very effectively. This is one of the reasons why their pedagogy matches so well. And we know from what Galamian was able to do with his students how well that pedagogical thought process works. We also know that Lucien Capet had many, many students like Brodsky and Galamian himself and many other students who came to him to fine-tune their own bowing technique, to work with him in his ensemble class, and to get as much information from this incredible man as they could. We also know that his string quartet was extremely famous. We know that he took over for his teacher Moran when his teacher died, and the mantle of Beethoven, as you can say, more or less, rested on him. He had an enormous ability to understand the mindset of Beethoven. I'm guessing that's because they had really similar backgrounds and similar. They both were musicians that came from very rough backgrounds. Beyond that, though, both of them had an incredible discipline and an ability to reach their artistic summit despite the challenges. So this string quartet, number 2, number 3, number 4 of Lucien Capet, worked together. They said 10 hours a day. I have no idea how much work they actually did. You know, the question is, well, how did they eat and live and earn money? But anyway, the documents say they practiced together for a year for 10 hours a day. And this was for the reason to memorize the Beethoven string cycle, or the string quartet cycle, the entire series of Beethoven string quartets, in addition to other popular string quartets of the era, but also to really get a precise technique. So the technique that Lucien developed during this time was the technique he wrote about in his book. And so this is why it can be used for more than just violin. It is a string quartet or a string method, or a string bowing technique method. I don't think it's just bowing technique, though. If you look at it, it's developing the left hand, the right hand, the mindset, the abilities to really dissect problems and overcome them and achieve greater abilities, skills. So, what was the result of all of this incredibly hard work? Probably not exciting work. They were invited all over the place to play these Beethoven string quartet cycles. People used to go, instead of movies, I think they just went to these quartet or popular concerts. And one of the most popular concerts was a series of concerts that featured the Beethoven string quartets, especially the late quartets, which I could talk about why that was the case more, but I think I'll just cut that out right now, and we'll talk about it more later. If you would like to find out more about that, it's in my book. There's a whole chapter in my book about that. So they were also, among all the other countries, they went to Russia several times, and they were invited to Bonn for the Beethoven Festival twice. One of those times was over Joachim, and Joachim was a beloved son of Germany. He was the violinist of the century. So for Capet and his quartet to be invited over him and over Joachim and his quartet was a big deal. And it didn't settle well for a while. But the Germans loved the way the Capets were able to interpret Beethoven's music. And because of this ability, they became one of the very first string quartets to be recorded on LP, on old wax LPs. And you can get those on Opus Cura today. You can buy those. There's out of Japan, and they've put out, I think, 4 or 5 CDs of Capet quartet playing several works. So what is this Capet Institute video post going to be about? Well, it's going to be about specific exercises sometimes, with a bit of historical information thrown in, because I can't resist. And we're going to talk about Capet the man, the way he thought. And because of the way he thought, how he was able to teach, and how we can use that in our teaching methods to help us to be stronger teachers as well. I'm going to look at some comparative materials, some other techniques that have been used to teach the same materials, and kind of compare and contrast what Capet does with others. That will help you to understand what you hear from different education teachers, or from other, well, your own teachers, for example. And then I don't know where it's going to go completely. There's so many things we could go off on. There's so many tangents we could talk about. I think those will develop as we go along. So when am I going to post? I think I have time right now to do one of these videos a week. So I'm going to try to do those on the weekend and then post that Monday morning for you. The resources that you will need to study Capet are 2. First of all, his original treatise. If you can find the one in French, that is better edited, and the exercises are a little clearer. The American one that Schmidt and Ships put out has a little problem with the music text sometimes. Anyway, the lines, the ledger lines, don't always agree with the notes. It creates a problem if you're trying to use it as a text to play out of. So I would get both of those texts for your own sanity. The American one, the Schmidt and Ships one, does have a nice little card with all the explanations on it about the bow divisions. And that's nice to have, because Capet put out a bunch of materials during World War I with the exact bow divisions in it. Which can be an interesting study, actually. It's not necessarily useful for everyone, but it's very interesting. And then as a companion to that book, you need to get my explanatory book, which is called Lucien Capet and Superior Bowing Technique. And that has a complete biography, the only complete biography available of Lucien Capet, and some comparative materials from Viotti on down to Capet, how his technique developed through the French school and other schools of the day, how it diverged from others and how it converged with others. So how is it different? How is it the same? Why should we use it? That's all talked about in that book. So pick up a copy of both of those. Neither one is terribly expensive. They're both reasonable. You can find that information, those ordering information, on the Facebook group page called, as you see behind me, over there, the Capet Institute. And it is a closed group, but go ahead and just join and answer those questions so we know who you are, and then it's easy to get on and we'll have things posted there. Please share this video with your colleagues, your students, your friends who are interested in improving their playing and their teaching methods. Do I know everything? Well, of course I don't. I'm a human being just like you are. We can only know so much in our lifetimes. But this information is very valuable. I find it very useful for myself and my students, and it has a long history of effectiveness, and it just does not get used enough. And like I said in my premise to starting this video, it is the most complete pedagogy for artistic development that I have found in my years of study, of comparison of treatises and other pedagogical information. So I know that's saying a lot, but I truly believe that's the truth. Now, because Capet was who he was, he really desired that those students who did not have the access to the fine education that he did, because he won the opportunity to get into the Paris Conservatory because he lived so close to the Paris Conservatory, and just many other blessings he had in his life to be able to study there. He felt very strongly about sharing that information with everyone. So he wanted the common person to have access to those techniques and develop those artistic skills so they wouldn't have to go to a conservatory or have a special teacher in order to play well. So will we have everybody on the Facebook group? Probably not. And the reason I say that is because, unfortunately, in violin pedagogy, just like with every other study in the world, there's those who truly are seeking to learn, and those who want to stand on a pedestal and get recognition for what they know. I don't make these videos so that you will recognize me. I would like you to recognize the man behind me. I would like you to recognize that there are many, many good things in this world that we need to share and work on together. But I don't put myself up there as the knowledgeable one. But in this field, I've done a lot of research, so I want to share that with you. But sometimes, and I'm not talking about the truly gifted teachers, because there are many truly gifted teachers, but sometimes there's some not as gifted teachers, but some incredible players who rely on their traditions and the way they learn to teach. And we really don't need to rely on a pedigree of education or a tradition, because sometimes that forwards traditional methods that aren't necessarily productive. They're not the best methods to produce skills and artistic freedoms. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're very good for certain players, and we have to keep that in mind as well. But we don't need posturing in our group. We need to work together to create a wonderful thing. And so I will be offering this. Bring what you know, and we'll put it together and see what we can accomplish together. We're going to keep this in the Department of Information relative to Capet, because that's what this research page is about, but we are interested in many kinds of string pedagogy, and especially research that we can compare to, and we really can come up with even a better, more improved way of teaching perhaps than we already know. And so until next time, keep working on those bow divisions, and I will see you at the Capet Institute there.